podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon. Happy 2023 with Dr. Mike Gustafson. I'm Aaron Dickens, and for the 18th time now, the program here, Tech Talk, wishing you a happy new year. And Gus, 2022 wasn't that bad. The ending was pretty dang good.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That put a nice little dessert on that meal, didn't it?
What's your preferred dessert for the holiday meals?
Oh wow. I mean, there's never going wrong with ice cream.
Ice cream
in my book, yeah. No,
even for like a holiday meal.
Yeah, you can never mess that up.
Oh wow.
Just pick the event. But I'm saying you can never go wrong with it. But
Sure.
Probably over the holidays would probably be the time most likely to eat some pie or something. A pie would be involved.
Big time.
Yeah. Yeah, I that bowl win had us feeling a lot like. I mean, it's a much different feeling because of the season, the totality of the season, and the excitement over Coach McGuire, and just all of those things. But it had us walking away from the season in a way akin to this time last year, because God rest her soul, but this time last year there was a lot of folks happy that you kind of put the late stuff to kind of quieted that down. And then, but yeah, and I think, I think the interesting takeaway from that is in the getting way ahead of ourselves category, but I guess that's the right thing to do, was we're still in the shadow of that bowl game and the bowl season. But by a nice convincing win like that over an SEC team at the end of the year, do you maybe start sniffing around at the top 30, top 25?
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, not out. I mean, maybe be in that 25 to 30 range.
Yeah, I think that the way that you finished out this season, you've set yourself up for a very fun off season, a very, very fun off season. And I would say, Gus, too, that, and it's kind of hard to put your finger on kind of off-season momentum, and sometimes that doesn't pan out. Look at what happened between 2013 and 2014. But this is about, as, just speaking for myself, as hyped, optimistic, excited, enthusiastic as I've been since maybe after the 04 season or after the 07 season, right? Because 08 was obviously the big year, but you knew afterward that, okay, Graham's gone, Crab is gone, a bunch of your own linemen are gone. You've got a heavy lift next year.
Brandon
and then
Williams.
Shortly after the end of that season, which didn't end all that great with, losing to Oklahoma the way you did and then losing to Ole Miss. And then shortly after the way that season, you had the first Mike Leach big contract dispute. People kind of forget about that. But yeah, I mean, it's really hard for me to imagine, or it's hard to believe, but this is true. You're more optimistic now than you were at the beginning of his first season, which is normally kind of like peak optimism time for most
lost
coaches.
The game yet.
Exactly, yeah.
Sure.
Undefeated. You've done the chicken fry circuit. You've done all the media appearances. All that stuff. Everyone is super behind you, and then once the games start, typically you kind of reality sets in, so to speak. But we're still dreaming. Like, pinch us. You win 8-5. You have a winning Big 12 record, back-to-back bowl wins over SEC teams, fourth place in the Big 12. You're going to be a dark horse pick in the Big 12 next year.
Yeah, 4 wins to end it, and that was when we kicked this around a little bit last week. It was the idea that this record wasn't unprecedented, but the 4-game finish. Because even you and I talked about way back into the season about years that had involved really good starts that kind of
petered out.
Yeah, petered out, and we went back into 98 and rattled off some of the Leach years and Cliff's year and some of that stuff. But man, this thing, it it almost erases the fact that we were sitting here at 4-5 at one point. Now, bear in mind, we were at 4-5 going, okay, this is the point in the schedule to make some hay. Kansas at home, in Ames, OU, none of which were gimmies, but it was, it was a little less than the gauntlet that we'd just run, and took care of all three of those, and just, on and on and on. And I guess the best news that we've gotten since you and I were together on the show is perhaps that Shough will be back playing quarterback. I mean, that was just a nice little add-on to the bowl win. Like, everybody's kind of group texted and wreck them and guns up and all the little things that you do after a good win. And which my play there is to post the little walking video of the bells, the victory bells, because I'm kind of walked by there on my way back to the car anyway, and so it's like perfect little 15-second snippet of the victory bells. I don't need to gloat. I don't need to say anything. Just bing. Now, obviously, I wasn't there that night, but I repurposed my OU victory bells, and But then after that, then you get the Shough good news, and so you start to my mind starts to race a little bit. I mean, just given how, I mean, the fascinating part about his finish to that bowl game, that was the most rushing yards since Rodney Allison for a quarterback, which blew my mind. I mean,
that's incredible.
Yeah, it really is, because Robert Hall ran around a bunch, and Robert Hall was the kind of guy that I can't point to a specific game. Who can forget the so-and-so game where he did such and such? Well, Robert was the kind of guy that could get out on a scramble and go 70.
Sure.
Yeah, he could go 70 instead of just running it 20 times a game. And and so I could, if you told me that Robert had a game where he went 9 carries for 112 yards with a 70-yarder in there, I'd go, yeah. But regardless, Shough being the guy that, halfway through September, the word was brittle and, all the things. Thank goodness our text line isn't archived forever. But, but he was throwing his body around like a fullback in that game in some respect. There was some sliding going on, but man, he took on some hits.
Targeting.
Yeah. Yes.
He and it's what I'm happy for Shough, and I'm happy to eat some crow here too, because I was very skeptical of the whole Shough, experiment, or the him as a player, or his future here after he got some backup work against TCU and against Baylor. It didn't look great in those two games. Nope. But in his final 4 games, I mean, he had 260 yards on the ground, right?
Yeah.
3 touchdowns. And then, passing, he did, nearly 440 against Oklahoma, had a touchdown against Iowa State, and, what was obviously a key X factor for you against Ole Miss, and he's back. And he's not alone. I mean, you return so much now, even your punter. Like how's that for a cherry on top of a cherry on top?
Yes, I agree.
It's incredible. Again, it's almost like we're dreaming. And listen, you didn't win 10 games. I mean, we're not throwing a parade here, but it's just after the long decade that we've all largely endured. This was a very welcome and nice change of pace. And like I said, get ready. You're going to be a dark horse pick, much like Kansas was a dark horse pick last year. We're just saying, last season, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess this current season.
And the other little piece, I guess, that we got since you and I were together, Rusty Stats. I don't know. You and I might have had
that
that
we knew
one.
That was coming.
But we got our receiver. We got our speed receiver last week.
And the extension.
Yes. Yeah.
Which we talked about, too. More Tech Talk next.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Hey there, it's the Juice on Double T 97.3 and Double T973.com with Dr. Mike Gustafson and Clint Scott. I'm Aaron Dickens. Time for some headlines. Of course, the Texas Tech Red Raider basketball team will look to even its Big 12 record today. They're hosting the third-ranked Kansas Jayhawks. Tip-off tonight, 8 o'clock at the USA. Our pregame coverage will begin for you at 7 here on Double T 97.3. Red Raiders riding a 29-game home winning streak. They'll put that on the line tonight. They're about 1 to 2 point underdog currently, which seems a little low based on what we've seen so far, but who am I to argue with our friends in the desert? The game between the Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals that was suspended last night after safety Damar Hamlin suffered cardiac arrest will not be resumed this week. That was announced today by the NFL. The league, however, has made no decision on resuming the game at a later date, and the Week 18 schedule remains on as scheduled. Panthers owner David Tepper has had a conversation with Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh about the opening that Carolina will have for the head coaching position once this season ends. The interview, or the conversation rather, was not characterized as an interview according to a source. Carolina right now is 6-10. They fired Matt Rule following a 1-4 start. So going back to college will be interesting. Although Harbaugh, having coached for a long time with San Francisco, not your typical college coach.
Coach the team to a Super Bowl.
Sure.
Yeah.
Finally, the NCAA Division I Transformation Committee is recommending more sport-by-sport governance, enhanced expectations for Division I schools to create a more uniform experience for athletes, and this is the big one, allowing 25% of teams in certain sports to compete in championship events. That would mean like 90 teams in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and that's been kicked around, and I think this floated a little bit last fall, and the immediate thing we latch onto is a basketball tournament, but that would also apply to a baseball a tournament field of 90-something teams, and certainly probably softball, soccer, volleyball. So yeah, interesting.
How would you feel about it from a baseball perspective?
One of the things I've hoped for as something that we could look forward to over time was basically an addition of a week, and this is hanging on to the 64 team bracket, but essentially a first round of it adds an extra week, but the first round is basically number 1 hosts number 64, number 2 hosts 63, etc., all the way up to 32 hosting 33. The idea being that it would give
like a best of
3, like super regional.
Got it.
But it would add a week, because you'd have 32 teams survive that instead of 16 teams. And it's really one of those things that you'll see people around college baseball say, man, if you were president of the czar of college baseball, what would you do? And that's something that a lot of people will throw out there. And you go, yeah, it'd be pretty cool, because then 32 teams would get the experience of hosting, basically every 1 and 2 seed in what we currently know as the regionals. So with that in mind, I was still hoping for that, and now you're going, okay, you're going to have 96 teams, and so I can throw that plan in the trash. But I don't know. I guess you'd have to have 4 teams, or maybe some buys or something to get to that. But it'd be, the more participation, the better. It'd probably be more. I mean, anytime you expand a field, certainly in a sport like baseball, you'd have more upsets than ever.
How do you think that like Ivan the Terrible or Catherine the Great or Nicholas II would feel about, hey, the Russian Empire failed state, you guys got overthrown. You really totally botched it. But, hey, at least your title lives on forever, well, at least so far, as kind of a catch-all term for HMFIC.
Wow.
Kind of good news, bad news, right? Like, hey, bad news is, your government, your empire, it crumbles. It just goes to pieces. But people say czar all the time.
Oh,
still.
Sure. Yeah, that's a... Yeah, because it's like the word. If it seems bigger. It's just
Sure.
It's this word that's got a little juice.
Is it the Z, you think?
Yeah, it probably is. It's got a little. It almost sounds a little sci-fi-ish, and it sounds more hefty than president. What if I said, if I was the chancellor of colonization, you go, if I was the president of colonization, emperor.
What about Commodore?
I know you go emperor. Yeah,
Commodore.
The emperor of without just.
Well, I think being one syllable helps too.
Yeah, I think
right.
so too.
Because Caesar, it's basically the Russian version of Caesar, but 2 syllables.
No, that's right. Czar seems very.
It just has an aggressive pronunciation with it too. It's like Czar.
Oh, I can't.
Sure.
I can't go against them. They're the czar. I
Right.
have to. This in the Yates Flooring Center chat line from our friend Shelley. I believe that one of the Raymar hosts referred to Tyler Shough as a saltine. Perhaps that made him a little saltier. I like Shough. I like his demeanor. I said that after the Oklahoma game where he made those comments that had everyone up in a tizzy. I like that he's got some piss and vinegar to him.
Yes, sir.
I don't know that I've ever seen him smile.
We're right there at the end of the bowl game.
Yeah, sure.
Yep, sure.
But I think that he has, and again, this is not a criticism. I like this in a quarterback. He has some RBF. Like, he has quarterback RBF. Resting B face. Surely.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
I was watching.
I was going way dirtier.
I was enjoying the
than that.
calculation.
No. Yeah.
I was going way dirtier than that. After your HMFIC earlier, I was like, whoa. Yeah.
Head my friend in charge.
Yeah, sure. That's what you. Yeah, sure. And that's why you understand where here he goes again with another curse-filled acronym, curse-implied acronym.
Acronyms once a segment. New one.
Nice.
All right, no problem. I got one teed up for
Oh wow.
3:30. Although it's one that I use all the time. Because he's probably very I'm sure that he's super nice and friendly and extroverted and you kind of have to be to play that position at this level. But man,
win the job.
If you look at him during a game, you think that he's just pissed.
Well, and I'm
Right?
okay with
It's
that.
like the angry version of Eli Manning, where every time you looked at Manning, it looked like he was pouting.
Yeah.
He just looked pissed.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of his default, which is great. And I hope that he has, great success in 2024.
I had, people come to me, I don't like what he said after the OU games. They were talking about teammates and all. And I mean, you know what? I want that dude to have a Mason block-sized chip on his shoulder. The world is full of great athletes who have played with a chip on their shoulder. Michael Jordan famously, the 9th grade basketball coach that cut him or what.
Yeah.
I mean, still almost a Richard type move in his basketball Hall of Fame speech that he's still dunking on that poor guy. But, Bregman's got one.
Oh, yeah.
And Bregman's still wearing his whatever number 2 jersey around or whatever, pissed that somebody didn't take him first. Brady, in one of his deals, I can't remember which one, but over the last 5 years, could, talked himself to the point of angry tears to this day, with hands full of rings and over getting drafted in the 6th round or whatever. And so that's the kind of thing, and lots of folks have that stuff. Some teacher told them they didn't get their head out of their rear, they'd end up somewhere or whatever, and the rest of their lives is great. And so I'm not, because the thing I'm absolutely not doing is sitting out there going, man, if he said something about people down the hall and the thing, blah, blah, blah. As long as he's not a bad teammate, and nobody has said that about him, then what do I care? I mean, really,
Right.
What do I care? What do I care if he's fueled every day by something somebody said to him? If it all funnels in the right direction for Texas Tech and for him personally and for that offense, man, get it, dude. I'm good with that. I mean, it's awful revisionist of the folks who have been really bothered by that to not think about the guy who so many of them defended as should be in the Ring of Honor, Graham Harrell, who double-barreled I don't know which side of the stadium you sit on, but one of these 2 quarterbacks double-barreled you.
Right.
So if you were okay with that, then I guess you can be okay with Shough saying what he said.
There's no way that was 17 years ago.
I know, dude. Hey, did you see the tweet? We're as close to 1996 as we are 1997 as we are 2050.
Oh,
I think
geez.
that's right. Yeah.
Well, as I contemplate my own mortality, more Tech Talk next.
Exactly.
The podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Hey there, it's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com with Dr. Mike Gustafson and Clint Scott. I'm Aaron Dickens. We're joining you today until 6 o'clock. We'll have coverage of the Red Raider basketball team as they take on Kansas tonight, 7 o'clock here on Double T 97.3. Over on 100.7 The Score, we'll have a Cooper basketball girl-boy doubleheader. Girls up first at 6. Boys will follow afterward. Both teams taking on Coronado at Coronado. Would love to get your thoughts and comments on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at doublet973.com. Somebody says this. Having beaten 2 SEC teams in a row when the postseason can't hurt where rankings are concerned. Rain says this. Rolling through God's country, 4-6's ranch on the way to the Kansas game tonight. Somebody says this. This is from our friend Mark in Olive Branch, Mississippi. Gus doesn't have to gloat. I live in Mississippi. I'll be gloating for the second straight year. It's pretty funny.
Yep.
T. Lee asks if it's a blackout tonight. I have received no apparel instructions for the game tonight.
Oh, yeah.
So wear your flannel. It's a flannel out.
Yeah, and I don't think it is, especially since, you're over kind of the holiday break and they're not going to do any sort of out without all of the students here.
This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line from our friend Shelley. That Blur song 2, was released in 1997. Yikes, seems like yesterday.
Oh, if I may clarify the tweet. The tweet was now 2050, 2050 is as close as 1996. I kind of just put behind that hashtag perspective that, that's the kind of stuff that makes you feel. Because 2050 seems way off, right?
So I'm as close to 66 as I am to 13.
The thing I'll do every once in a while is go back to a year like my, senior year in high school, 1985, and I go, okay, that was 38 years ago. And then think about in 1985, if you would have gone back 30 years, it would have been, 1947. So it was a couple years after World War II.
Mm-hmm.
Ancient history, back then. And now I'm going, whoa.
Not so ancient.
I know. Yes. So, yeah.
This in the Yates Flooring Center chat line. How often do you receive apparel instructions, AD? Well, as a matter of fact, we have some new apparel instructions here. We have an official studio apparel sponsor. The folks at Signature Stag, rocking one of their shirts right now. It's super comfortable. Really like the fit, and I'm excited to wear more of their gear in 2023.
Good looking swag.
Yeah.
I got a shirt, and supposedly I've got a little pullover, kind of like the one I'm wearing here from there. Like I'm on the wait list for it, so looking forward to that.
Yeah, I like the. I'm wearing the Texas Guns Up logo deal. I really like the, I guess the Raider red, the glasses, and then the mustache. But I didn't feel like that would be as visible on television, so I opted against those. But those are really slick looking.
And so I saw the one that had, someone called a mask instead of glasses.
That's fine. Okay.
And mustache all over the shirt, and I said, that's mine.
That's yours, yeah. This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line.
And the other one's very prominent over there is the cactus.
Oh, sure, and they've got crossed guns too. Yeah, a lot of slick gear there.
That's a cool place to. I can imagine that Aaron Dickens doesn't do a lot of shopping. I don't think I'm digging.
I do our weekly grocery run every week.
All right, okay.
Yeah, Sunday mornings.
Also does his weekly stop at Ross Dress for Less.
That's where I was going. This seems like he'd be sort of low patience on the clothes thing.
Typically on clothes, I order online.
Yeah.
Right?
You know your size.
Sure.
Especially on shirts and stuff.
But I'll definitely be picking up more stuff from Signature Stag. There's no doubt.
That place is cool.
This is
and it's not all tech stuff. There's a bunch of tech stuff. There's a nice section of just good men's clothes, and
this fits better than any other shirt that I've worn in recent memory.
Nice.
I'm like being dead serious.
Sure.
Like
not just shilling. You're not just a
right,
paid
no,
shill.
We could have stopped 2 minutes ago.
Yep, that's right.
And in fact, I don't know that we're even like. I don't know that we're like. Not,
I don't think so.
Not that we're not allowed, but I don't think that we were told to. Now, granted, I've been gone for like 5 weeks, so
yeah, I haven't seen a memo to that effect, and I don't think we're going to get the same reaction from this as we did our repeated French fry segments back in August that finally warranted a hey, fellas, knock it off. You just gave away thousands of dollars of advertising.
How about TCU, man?
Really happy for Sonny Dykes. I laughed several times over the week as you. One of the very last segments you and I had together, at least on our last full show, was your vegetables analogy. You said, who are you rooting for in all these bowl games? And we went down the list. And you were like, man, rooting for TCU is like eating your vegetables, right? It's the right thing to do. It's good for you, but man, rather
it's
have
not fun. Yeah. And man, rooting for TCU is like kale. Like it is the most bitter, foul-tasting vegetable that there is.
It was easier to take, number one, after our win, for sure. And it was easier. And then once they won that game, the beauty of it was at least to go, okay, well, now that we've eaten our kale, we can enjoy the surge of energy and
nice greasy cheeseburger
or whatever. But it was the enjoying the, because of the talk earlier that day, it was okay. Bama just smoked K-State. They belonged in this tournament. They belonged in the Final Four because that was sort of the talk. Like when the field of four was selected, that had Bama been in there, that Vegas would have had them as favorites, at least over 2 and 3. Michigan and Ohio State. I can't remember maybe even right there with Ohio State. And so, Saban commented on that and all that. And so, the fact that TCU went out and won that game at least allows that stuff to die down, or at least refocus it on to, the Big Ten sucks. Well, good. They both lost, so you can, they get everyone's ire as opposed to the Big 12 getting dumped on.
Pretty stinker bowl season for the Big 12. Now, granted, I feel like
easier to take once we got our win, though.
And no one's going to kind of like dive into it this way, but like you had an overachiever type team like Kansas, right, playing an Arkansas team that I think was interested in that game, and that was a whale of a game too.
It was.
I don't know that Oklahoma really wanted to be at the Cheez-It Bowl, right? So Florida State, meanwhile, playing in Florida, motivated. They're kind of on the come up.
They were in that game. They were the Texas Tech. The Texas Tech, the Texas Bowl or whatever, the Houston Bowl was to what Florida State was, the home game and a team that's resurgent
and very excited to be in that game and play in that game. In K-State, man, I mean, Lions Den meet necklace. I mean,
and unfortunately, they got a motivated Bama team that wanted to be there because Bama's a couple of times in the Saban era, they got beat by OU, beat them one year, and Utah beat them one year. That I'd have to go through that list, but every once in a while you can understand that.
Slipping.
Yeah, that team's played in so many high leverage, just conference championships and all the things that when they finally go, oh man, we got to go play in the Sugar Bowl against Oklahoma, and and then go out and just not be that excited and be loaded with a bunch of NFL draft guys and all that. they were engaged. They obviously K-State got out to that 10-0 lead, and then Bama went, "All right, hold my beer."
This in the Yates Flooring Center chat line. I told you guys that K-State would get spanked. Let's see. Scroll. Yeah. K-State runs into a buzzsaw against Bama 6 days ago. Of course, I wasn't here. But yes, you did say that. Interesting comments in your history also about Britney Spears and her music library. Interesting. This from our friend Steven. Probably had some kale in my lunch salad. Eyes emoji. Will lose 50 pounds by wedding honeymoon in August. Guess who'll pig out on the cruise? Hey, mazel tov on the wedding. More tech talk next.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Hi there. It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com with Gus and Clint. I'm Aaron with you until 6. Would love to hear your thoughts, comments, and concerns on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at Double T 97.3.com. All guests appear via the Benchmark hotline. This from someone on the chat line. Sorry, guys, late to the party. Have y'all discussed Sark losing his mind on that poor bowl guy holding the Texas players at the tunnel? He should be ashamed.
Well, I kind of went off on it the other day on this show. I'll because I'll try to capsulize this, because the other day I sort of was fired up about it. But I think a couple things. First of all, it's a major Richard move. That dude's just who knows? He may be a volunteer or just an events guy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just such a so there's one thing. The other thing is you're supposed to be a leader of men. I mean, think about it. In an hour and a half or so, as you watch that video, that's awesome. An hour and a half later, somebody on his team's going to late hit somebody, and that player's going to jog off on the sidelines, and maybe Sark goes, "Get yourself under control," or, "Let's go, have some discipline," or whatever. And like, really? Now, in fairness, that his team was oblivious to that. They probably didn't see that until the next morning on social when it kind of made the rounds. But it's just, it's such a, to me, it's a horrendous look, because you're the head coach and acting like that. I mean, because there's no threat. The dude wasn't getting up in Sark's grill or anything else. He was holding him back. All that stuff scripted. We're going to let Washington come out first at 8:02, and then at 8:02 and 30 seconds, we're going to let, whatever. That's how that is at a bowl. And I think all he did was reach out, because I'm sure he was going, "Hey, Sark, if you wander off, they're following you." And then the avalanche is, and so the guy kind of pats him on the chest, like, "Hey, stay here, hang on." The dude stepped back and sort of eye rolls him, and then gets up in his grill, "You blankety blanker," like, get out of, dude. Even the ref was standing there like, "Easy." It's like I said, if you're preaching be calm and cool and, play the next play type stuff, and that's how you act, I mean, how do you take that if you're the player and he's chewing your butt for doing something? Losing your cool, throwing a punch in a practice. 1,000,000 push-ups for you, Dickens. If you're going to punch somebody on the same team, like, "Oh, really? You're preaching to me about keeping my cool." Is that right? And I don't know, maybe he's apologized for it, but I just think it's just a Richard of a move.
Yeah, it was unhinged. It's the same energy that you see when you, like, there was a lady in the Austin airport when the Southwest kind of meltdown was happening that went ballistic,
throwing computers and all that stuff,
and screaming at the top of her lungs, and it's just like that's.
Yeah. And security came and hauled her off. Yeah. Like she went to the Gray Bar Motel for a night, because she was destroying stuff. If it's the same clip you and I are thinking of, but what I saw lady just stepped around there and launched keyboards and threw monitors and all that stuff. Now that scene might have taken place at 20 airports last week. But
See, I can't understand that. Like,
yeah, I can't either.
I can
I understand. Yeah.
There are some things where I go, you know what? I can see myself getting to that point. Not to that level, but
What's
like
the end?
But I
What's
threw
the
a
end
remote
game?
one time and it broke, and I felt like a total dumb idiot. Right? So it's like I don't do that anymore. I can't imagine getting to the point where you're in an airport tossing keyboards around.
Right. Now what? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, now what?
Hey, what's your end game here?
Right.
Like, what's the win? All right. This in the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Sorry, guys. Let's see. So somebody asked about transfers. I'm trying to scroll for the deal. I'm out of practice. This is from Tracy in Dallas. All right, boys, just tuned in. Any breaking football transfer portal news, good or bad? The most recent transfer portal news that I saw was Austin McNamara coming back. Now, you add Dre McCray from Austin P. He's a speed receiver for you. Probably in an ideal world would be a slot receiver for you, but I think that you'll play him on the outside as well. And he'll add, hopefully another dimension to your offense. I think you certainly feel a lot better about your receiving core now going into 23 than you did about it going into this past season. Bradley stepped up in a big way late. Monster game in the bowl game. Fungi has kind of come along. And I think you're still a little bit, you have some depth questions. There's maybe a bit of fall off after that first line, but still, it's way better than you were this time a year ago.
Well, the Fungi Bradley duo has stepped up in a big way, whereas the Sparkman Cleveland duo has probably taken a step back. Now, is that permanent? Who knows? Those guys. I would assume those guys, Sparkman and Cleveland, will have something to prove in spring training, spring ball. Because they're adding bodies to that group. It's not like, well, all these other dudes are graduating, and so the time is now. I mean, it's that's the big one. The other one, again, our texter may be up on this. It's not breaking, but the Rusty Stats, the center, which is supposedly going to let Wilburn move over to guard, Cole Spencer. Well, it'll be interesting to hear about that as we go through the spring, what his status is, because he was, he was Tech's nominee for the Outland Trophy, and so for best lineman, and he hadn't played him down here, but whoever, Hamby, McGuire, somebody said, hey, there's our guy. So perhaps the best lineman we had on campus was hurt or never really, his rehab never really sped along, and so two additions, both of them Hilltoppers. Two guys with Hamby history, and grown men, old guys, 5th-year guys, 6-year guys,
and this all of these guys coming back. And for the texter, yes, McNamara is coming back. He's announced that on Twitter. They're this kind of bridge, right? That you weren't sure that you were going to have, because we know that help is on the way. Insert Mrs. Doubtfire voice here. In the form of these recruiting classes that McGuire is stacking up now. And you just got to be a little bit patient with those guys, because freshmen don't walk in, especially on the lines, and start contributing right away as kind of plus players. And so now you have this extra bridge year where you're bringing so many super senior types back. You're bringing your starting quarterback back. You're bringing all these offensive linemen back, and I would even include Spencer in that, even though he didn't play. Right. You're adding a guy like Rusty Stats, who's played in this system for this offensive line coach, for this offensive coordinator. It's gigantic, because at some point there's going to be, you would think, some kind of, I don't know, dip when the older players exhaust their eligibility, but the reinforcements haven't quite aged up to the point where they can really help you win a bunch of games. Mm-hmm. And 2023 could have been that year, right?
Yep.
But not now. I mean, you're bringing like 15 guys back,
right,
in key spots.
And it's going to allow all those guys and maybe Baron Morton among them, to be a year older when the thing is theirs to inherit. And I'm not saying there won't be playing time for those guys or whatever. They become depth pieces, but it's the idea of a redshirt freshman starting versus a third-year sophomore starting. And by the way, the backup center in the game the other day was a true freshman for Tech, maybe. Yeah, true freshman, redshirt freshman, somebody that hadn't played all year. And I don't know if he ended up getting into the game. It was one of those subtleties that got washed away.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3. Presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon. It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com with Dr. Mike Gustafson and Clint Scott. I'm Aaron Dickens. We're joining you today till 6. We'd love to hear your thoughts and comments on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at Double T 97.3.com. All guests appear via the Benchmark hotline. Did Santa bring you guys what y'all wanted for Christmas?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't. I was sort of I wasn't a Grinch this year, but the thing I needed was a new laptop, and that's one of those gifts that Dana would be just, I'm not buying the laptop.
Sure.
And then y'all wanted a Bronco 7000, and so I was like, hey, just don't spend a bunch of money on me. And I got a book here and some stuff, so it was fine. The Christmases, all the various celebrations were great, but so mine didn't feature a big.
So you're going to start bringing the laptop in, or are you going to stick with the Gus Binder 3000?
I don't know. I started on New Year's Eve the big backup, like the archive stuff, because I archived that to one external hard drive, and then I copied that external to this one over here. Like going all
contingencies on contingencies.
Going all IT nerd. And if you're really going to do that, and this is what I did with dissertation data. Of course, the dissertation all fit on a thumb drive. You give the thumb drive. You say, "Hey, Mom, keep this," like at a different physical location, so that and this was when Google Drives and stuff like that weren't as available 20 years ago. But yeah, you take that, and so that God forbid your house burns down, the dissertation data and the 140 pages, draft number 17 are
that'd be a bad
else.
Day.
Like right now, I've got the two external hard drives, but they're within feet of each other, so I'm not doing a really good job with that. But all of that's about a 24-hour process. Copying to this and then copying that to there, and so and then the conversion to the new. And so I'm still kind of messing with two computers because we've got an event in Omaha in less than a month. I got first pitch luncheon here in Lubbock.
You got to have a good time. To swap laptops.
And part of it was New Year's Eve. I was like, I'm gonna do this at the end of 2022 because part of it was we've had a lot going on, and now would be a bad time to have something happen. But there will be a better time probably into February. But we got first pitch luncheon 3 weeks from today, so I got a lot going on. So I'll probably be messing with two computers for another month or so. That's all right. Good. That's a first world problem.
I think Gus just gave you a great name for the binder, the external hard drive.
That's right. I like that.
Nice.
Yes. Clint, did Santa bring you what you wanted for Christmas?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I didn't really ask for much, but we got to go to the brother-in-law's. We got to go shoot some rifles and pistols and stuff. So
nice. At each other?
Yes. Yeah. We played a very dangerous version of laser tag.
You seem to have made it out okay. I hate to see the other
I'll just
guy.
say I won.
I was going to say, if you lost, then you guys are... I don't know what you were shooting.
My family does Secret Santa,
nice.
with each other, which is, you're doing an Elfster, so you basically...
And you mean your family, like your Houston people.
Sure. And so I'm like, I would guess 95% of dudes, I have no idea what that I want. Because I just... typically I will just get it.
Sure.
So I asked for a weighted blanket.
Oh, nice.
I've heard really good things.
I've heard good things.
What else? That's not something that I would go out and buy. But,
Yeah.
So I get that from my Secret Santa.
There
I'm
you go.
pretty stoked.
Yeah.
I have not slept under it one night.
Really? So you just haven't had the opportunity to
no.
try it yet?
Oh no. It's been
the wife.
co-opted by the wife.
Oh yeah, I got you.
Oh, I thought you
She's
were gonna
like,
say,
it's my blanket now.
Well,
You don't even get cold at night.
if somebody in the house enjoys the gift that much, in some ways that's that's not the worst thing. It's better than the gift that's
it's
sitting
better than
over in
getting
the
shot
corner.
at by my brother-in-law, but yes.
It's better than the gift that just goes, no, nobody.
one-on-one bullet tag. Let's go. Well, you see, what I thought you were going to say is I
Russian
got my
roulette.
wife a weighted blanket for her birthday a few years back, and she loves it. But she was like, "Oh, you should try it. You'll like it because it's supposed to help with like anxiety or different things like that." I have never.
I
felt
wouldn't
more,
know.
Right.
I haven't
It's
gotten
supposed
to use
be.
it.
You're
Yeah.
still
I
riddled
can
with
tell you-
Way
anxiety.
to rub it in.
I can tell you from the couple of times I've tried it, I've never felt more anxious or suffocated.
Yeah.
Weighted blanket.
I'm
Really?
not going to make it out of this thing alive.
Like, I'm drowning. I'm drowning. This is what drowning without water feels like.
I think I saw a recall like before Christmas. Just happened to see one of the national newses one night, and it was a recall on a children's weighted blanket.
Really?
Because you can imagine
Well,
the
no,
risk.
it's heavy as hell.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
man.
I don't. Yeah, I'm not suggesting you put a newborn under that thing you got, but whatever.
This
Would they like explode?
No, I think you just kind of did the opposite of exploding. Just
This and the 8th
Succumbed.
Center chat line from Raiders Dead. In 2020, all of us kids pitched in and bought a nice Apple computer to upgrade our parents' Windows Vista rig. Wow, that's an
nice.
old one.
Yeah.
My stepdad looks like an IT pro because he's still running 2 different machines in his spiny chair. It's hilarious. He won't give it up.
That's hilarious. That is beautiful. Yeah, I know. I'm better than that about it. I'm just it really is more of a timing issue than anything else. Get me to. I know that won't be the first thing I'll do on February 4th as I'm flying home from my boat. I got to get home and archive this computer, but it'll be the sort of thing that I can put the other one in the rear view.
This in the chat line, AD, please help your man set up a OneDrive or Box account so his files can be in the cloud.
Well, I am a pretty good user of Google Drive because I do share them in the board of the active part of the CBF, the part that's really engaged on this event. Let's see, there's people in Omaha, Lubbock, Texas, Connecticut, and Tom is in
Anchorage.
No,
San Juan.
Where's the Atlantic 10 office?
Santa Fe. Wait, what'd you ask?
Philadelphia.
The Atlantic 10 office. Where would that be? Virginia?
Charleston.
Man.
Newport News.
Blacksburg.
It's Newport
Virginia?
News.
Okay.
Yeah, Virginia.
So yeah,
That's on the tip of my tongue.
So us sharing documents, we're doing that pretty well. But there's so much video in the stuff that I'm archiving, I can't just throw it up on the Google Drive. 15 gigs, not going to touch it because so much of what I've got is stuff that will be. I mean, as it stands, I'm sort of the College Baseball Hall of Fame in certain respects. My computer holds a lot of the electronic resources, if you will, and so the video clips of Todd Helton are 15 gig, and so that's why that's why I can't just dump it into the
You need
old
like a whole server rack, it sounds like.
well,
And that's like a business card worthy, by the way. I am.
Yeah.
No.
Has to be my Todd Helton video collection.
I am about to not be, but yeah, that's we're I'll get in 3 weeks from today. First pitch luncheon. Got Josh Young lined up for
How about that?
and Emily's flying in. So yeah, that'll be we'll
It's
chat.
going to be here before you know it,
Well, it
man.
really will. That's yeah. If you are listening and you're a normal table buyer for the first pitch luncheon, we usually have 225 or so. Nice little crowd. It's you'll be getting something in the mail from us this week, so I'll be looking for it.
Raiders' dad corrects me. He said it's not a spiny chair; it's a spinny chair.
Ooh. Yeah.
So,
Boy, that is.
in my defense, he texted in SPINY. So I don't.
Yeah.
I read it as spiny as
Okay.
well.
It would
I
have to
figured
be.
it was like an ergonomic deal.
It would have to be SPIN-Y to maybe make that work and not be spiny.
Sure.
If he goes -Y, then I could go, okay, spinny, got it.
But isn't spinny chair kind of like, they're all spinny chairs.
But
like, can you buy an office chair that doesn't spin?
No, not anymore.
You got to go searching.
You
for
just
it,
have to go get not an office chair. You just go get one from the kitchen table. But you also
this is my office stool,
and you'll be looked at crazy if you go into a store and be like, "Where are your non-spinning office chairs?"
I have really bad vertigo.
Yeah,
I don't need to spin.
I'd like a modification, please.
That you described though of retired guy hanging onto the Vista computer because it's got whatever, and working 2 computers and all that stuff. That there's a character right there. I mean, we can all sort of think about that. We can.
As I get older, I can relate to that more and more.
Yeah, sure. And my dad is still, my dad I don't think has even touched cloud-based any of that stuff other than what's sort of been forced on him by an email server or whatever. But dad's, I got the, and it's like I can tell he's a boomer that grew up in the muscle car era because I got a 17-incher and a rah. And it's all about juice, megahertzes, and power, rah. And I'm going, you don't carry that thing around like I carry mine around every day. So I'm
25-pound laptop.
Yeah, I'm driving the little Toyota, and he's driving the deuce and a quarter.
More Tech Talk next.
The podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3. Presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Hi there, it's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T973.com with Gus and Clint. I'm Aaron. We're joining today until 6. Love to hear your thoughts and comments on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at Double T973.com. This on the chat line, Dickens, you forgot your profane acronym in that segment. My apologies.
First failure of 2023.
First is many, I'm sure.
Didn't take long.
This is actually my favorite. I use it often. So if you have listened to this show for some time, you won't be new to this, but it's AMF yo-yo. And the best part about this is that it can be family friendly and it can also be not so family friendly because it's adios, my friend. You're on your own. Or something else. Use your imagination. You mentioned Baron Morton a second ago, and I'm curious. We saw a lot, and granted, we saw this during the season as well, but it was a bit different when it was Baron Morton and Donovan Smith, or Tyler Shough and Donovan Smith, right? We saw a lot of Tyler Shough and Baron Morton on the field at the same time. Especially, it seemed like in the first half. Maybe in the second half, they just played regular football. I don't know that I love that. It worked on the initial touchdown, right? With the Baron and Morton, he goes under center, goes on his tippy toes, direct snap to Shough. But it seems like you didn't have any issues running with Shough out of traditional formations,
right?
Against Ole Miss, and part of me wonders, okay, is this primarily an exercise, a vehicle to get Morton on the field more and get him and keep him engaged and keep his name out of the portal? If that's the case, I don't like it, but I understand it. Or is this some kind of like deep philosophical commitment by Kitley and therefore McGuire to try and explore if you can exploit some inefficiencies by having 2 quarterbacks on the field at the same time? Right? And if that's the case, again, I don't necessarily like it, but I'm intrigued.
Yeah, I agree, and I wouldn't put it past either one of those scenarios being, there being a grain of truth to both of those. I think on a 4th down miss, didn't the 4th down miss involve Barron's overthrow in the end zone?
Sure. Well, you had the Barron overthrow, and then you had also the Shough throw to Barron that was intercepted.
Yeah,
it was just on a rope, and Probably if Shough had to do it over again, maybe a bit more arc on it.
And that was the point in that game. That's been a while to really dissect that. But that, I'm like, man, those are
Still kind of in the balance.
Yeah, the red zone misses were starting to add up. Like, man, you just don't want those kind of things to be later on going, oh my gosh, we didn't even get 3 out of that. And I'll to bring it to an analogy, it's something we don't want to talk about that's very relevant tonight. You go in the other day at half in the basketball game, up 11, having missed 4 technical foul free throws at that point. I think all 4 of those were in the first half, I think. 2 of them by a guy that's 45 for 50 on the year in free throws. Now, the football example of this is that, hey, it didn't matter because what you were more or less in the course of doing was sort of dominating them in a sense, not in a huge stat way, but with the 5 turnovers and some of those things. But the basketball deal 100% came back to bite, Tech in that loss at TCU. But early in the game, like, hey, we're up 11, but man, a couple of those free throws would have been nice, or that missed layup would have been nice, it ended up feeling like missed opportunities. But I think back to your original point, the Baron Morton deal, I mean, the stage is legit set for him to have the show for 2 years. I mean, like, be the guy this time next year.
Well,
we're looking forward to the Baron Morton era.
And I mean, the also the reality of, hey, how many teams around the Big 12 had their preseason starter play all 12 games or 13?
Yeah, sure.
And that list is very, very short. And heck, the team playing for a national championship from the Big 12, they're not playing their opening day starter quarterback. Duggan was not the guy to start week 1. That was the Morris kid who transferred from Oklahoma. This on the chat line. Dickens only likes talking Tech football, nothing about men's basketball. Well, I mean, I've been gone for 2 weeks, give or take, and I've, had to kind of stew on all the football stuff for a long time. And listen, there's really not much fun to talk about with that men's basketball team right now. They collapsed against TCU. We just talked about it. They missed a ton of free throws, and they're staring down the barrel of 0-2 tonight, even though that line is oddly narrow.
It's creeping toward Tech. Went from 2.5 to 1 today. But yeah, the 23 turnovers and just the interesting thing was that game was, it felt like it was played a couple of times because I always joke around with this with friends of mine about just Big 12 basketball, and it's a compliment to the league. It doesn't matter what the score is. With 5 minutes left, they're going to be tied, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's just so rare. I mean, all the time you'll see a game get out to a 10-point lead, and then you get down to 7 minutes left, and here we go. You're trading, and it's just a product of a good league. But Tech up 11 at half, come out and just lay an egg, and then go back up 9, and okay, all right, may have weathered that storm. And then just lay an egg. Like the rash of turnovers right there was painful because so many of them were just, here comes the double team trap. Okay, and there's a steal, and then here's the pass to nobody picked off, going the other way.
Those are the what are you doing plays.
Yes.
When you're sitting at home or if you're at the game and you're either yelling or asking saying to yourself, what are you doing? Like what is, and that's like. It's one thing to be limited, right? Last year's team was limited offensively, right? Mm-hmm. They just you couldn't shoot reliably from the outside. You didn't have someone that could reliably create for you. For whatever reason.
Yeah, that team was a brick wall defensively.
But they played their asses off.
Yep.
And you could count on that defense showing up night in, night out. It wasn't always good enough, right? But they played really, really hard. They took care of the basketball, and they really excelled at what they, were good at. This team is not. Like they turn the ball over at an alarming clip. As you said, a high number of them are really unforced errors. What are they really good at? And I recognize, they're young, et cetera. That's fine. I'm not burning anybody in effigy, but I don't have to like fake enthusiasm or like optimism when we've had half a season to look at. Now, granted, you only had non-conference, but it's not like you've just blown through the non-conference either. So, pardon me if I'm just a little bit pessimistic about your Big 12 chances. And heck, we had that conversation a few weeks ago. Well, probably more than a few. Hey, would you take 8 and 10? I sure as heck would take 8 and 10 right now.
Yep, I agree. And
run.
Yeah, and I think what this team's got going for, they're better shooters, and there's a Davion Warren in there. But man, after that, it's thin.
This has been the Tech Talk Podcast, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. Check out our library of Double T 97.3 podcasts at doublet973.com.